Scooby-Doo, one of the most famous and iconic cartoons of all time. Starting in 1969, it has been around for 50 years at the time of this recording. Be it reboots, movies, comics, merchandise, Scooby-Doo has Scooby done it. The show aired when Saturday morning was the only time to watch cartoons. It was actually my mom's favorite cartoon when she was a wee lass, so of course, she bought every single Scooby-Doo VHS she could find, and my siblings and I were essentially forced to watch it against our will. I don't know about my other siblings, but I loved it. Scooby-Doo ended up being one of my biggest inspirations to get into animation. Probably because a lot of its animation flaws are extremely apparent and it made it look easy for me to do at a young age. So, being the big Scooby-Doo fan that I was, it's no wonder that I was drawn to him whenever I saw his familiar face in my Scholastic book order catalog. Anyone else remember these? These things were the shit. Especially if your family splurged and it got a personal computer, like the... I don't know what was popular in the late 90s. The Dell Dimension.
Will a Dell PC make your kid most popular? Probably not. Anyways,
a personal computer meant only one thing to a kid with a Scholastic book order. Games! PC Master Race. Now, normally Scholastic only carried titles from Humongous Entertainment, such as my homies Putt Putt, Pajama Sam, and Freddy Fish. You know, the gaming icons that gave Mario a run for his money. Oh. Now, as much as I loved old Putt Putt and Pajama Sam, I loved Scooby even more. So when I saw a Scooby-Doo computer game in my book order, I nearly vomited with childhood autistic excitement. Scooby-Doo Showdown in Ghost Town. Shivers, man. Ugh. Scooby-Doo Showdown in Ghost Town is a point-and-click adventure game developed by The Learning Company with partial development done by Terraglyph Interactive Studios, who went on to do... fucking nothing. What is this, Beowulf 99% finish? What does that even mean? Why is it on this page? The game follows Scooby and the gang to the town of Los Burritos, and Fred needs to settle the fuck down before he kills somebody.
Well, that's a big help. I wonder what it says.
It says traps are gay.
Here you meet 5 different people, look for clues, and based on what clues you find, you must determine at the end of the game which of these suspects is secretly the villain to our story, the mysterious Faceless Rider. Not Headless, though. They already did a Headless Goon in the show. This game was really neat to me back in the day, as it's relatively short, even for when I was 7 years old, but the culprit is different every time you start up the game. So you have to pay attention to what each character says and does, and pay attention to what clues you get as well, since some of the clues are false ones, and they're only thrown in to throw you off the trail of the real culprit. Fucking dick. So, now that I've found my old copy in my mom and dad's house and burned an ISO onto another disc as the original disc would never work on Windows 10, it's time to install this bad boy. Oh wow. I didn't expect the window to be so small. I guess this is what it's like to run a 19-year-old game on literally any computer. I remember installing these games when I was a kid and just hitting yes and next without reading and probably just ruining our computer, but hey, if I got to help Putt Putt travel to the future to find his lunchbox, then it was all worth it in the end. Excuse me? I need to install Adobe Acrobat to view some files? Would you like to install Adobe? No thanks. I'm pretty sure this version of Adobe Acrobat on this disc can only display hieroglyphics. Okay, so now we're at the main menu, and it looks like we got some groovy goodies to explore. Well, hey, who could say no to that? So here we have a preview of the all-new Scooby-Doo movie, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, a message made for Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, and a movie poster for, you guessed it, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, which I need to install Adobe Acrobat fucking 4.5, so there goes my fun. Okay, let's watch the trailer. This should take me back. Holy fuck, what is this aspect ratio? 105 by 90? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the internet before YouTube. Okay, now we got Message Mate. What the fuck was that? It was just a black screen that said Message Mate. Okay, moving on. So now we got the online goodies, which include a sneak peek to the game I literally just installed. Use America Online or another service provider. Well, I'm not 83, so I'll be using another service provider. God damn. Well, it looks like I'm the fool. Wait a second, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed? Isn't that the second live-action movie that came out in 2004? Well, since I didn't install an Adobe program from 1997, I can't really do much more, so let's start up the game. The Learning Company. And Warner Brothers comes in with the very unoriginal way to present their logo. Oh my god! Jeez! You know, it's a wonder how people forgot about Terraglyph with a fucking intro like that. Alright, here we go. Scooby-Doo Showdown in Ghost Town. Man, this takes me back.
Like, hey, we'll need some help solving this creepy mystery. Like, how about typing in your name before we start?
You got it, Shaggy. Gertrude. My grandma's name.
Like, groovy, hip, out of sight. Right on, man. Way out. Let's get moving.
Wow, Shaggy, can you think of a few more adjectives?
Spook, 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 spook.
As you can tell, these cutscenes are made with another very old Adobe product. Like, look at this. It's almost like pre-Newgrounds level. It actually reminds me more of like E-Bomb's World or Albino Black Sheep. I'm actually half expecting to see a kamikaze watermelon fly the fuck in. So here we are, Los Burritos, population, after stepping out of the van and walking into town, Shaggy suddenly is too scared to go any further due to some strange whale noises. This forces you to use your last Scooby snack. Once here, Shaggy deduces that the whale noises are louder. So let's follow these whale tracks leading us into the saloon, a whale's natural habitat. Once inside, you find out that it's not a whale at all, but a man! Once discovered, the gang quickly acts to free this man from his ghostly bonds.
Give me a nickel.
This man is named Artifact. As his name entails, he's an archaeology professor who was digging where he wasn't supposed to until the faceless rider grabbed him and tied him up. After he spills some Los Burritos lore on the gang, or Los Burritos beans, he gives us our first clue, a feather. We quickly add him as our first suspect for the identity of the faceless rider. After this encounter, we can click on this pie down here, which starts a pie throwing minigame that allows us to get some more Scooby snacks because Shaggy hit the fucking last one. But only after Velma says this.
Showdown at Pie Noon.
My favorite part of this minigame is to just beat the ever-loving shit out of Fred with pies because it's still funny to me 20 years later as an idiot man-child. Fred decides to split up as usual so he can get some alone time with Daphne up in the bedroom, only to get distracted by bed nickels and seeing the faceless rider digging in the graveyard outside of the window. This bed nickel allows Scooby to ride the mechanical bull, which somehow ends up with you obtaining some kind of crank lever. I love point and clicks. Next stop on our Los Burritos tour takes us to the train station where we meet our second suspect, this prospector dude and his big ass. After waking him up with a good mulesicle, he informs the crew that he is missing his teeth. This part frustrated me as a kid because you can clearly tell what he's saying, but none of the characters can decipher his toothless talking.
My teeth! My teeth! Have you got my teeth?
What?
Next to the train station is the general store, which has literally nothing here but a mechanical clock. Velma says we need a crowbar to pry it loose, which I don't have, so let's just go. Here we have the sheriff's office, where we meet Sheriff Chuck D. Wagon, our third suspect.
And he has a bird. Our first clue was a feather. Fuck.
Before giving us our next clue, he quizzes us about things around the town that we've barely explored. And for some reason, the sheriff asks for the sign at the front of the town, which Scooby hastily yeets off screen to Fred's delight.
All right! Way to go, Scoob! Nice work!
After becoming our next suspect, Chuck gives us a red patch of clothing to pin the blame on our friend Gummy Bear. I get it, and he has no fucking teeth! While we're here, let's use our crank on this water trough to get this key because video games. The gang then decides to split up to explore the post office and the sheriff's office. And in the post office, we find a hole that we can't explore without a light, so I'ma head out. The sheriff's office has a jail cell, but since the door is rusted shut, I realized that I just wasted my time and decided to leave. Apparently I fucked up. There's another room back at the saloon, so with the help of some Scooby snacks, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby decide to check it out. The room ends up being a theater with a woman trapped under the stage. This girl is Jenny Lariat, our fourth suspect. She's here to document all the spooky happenings in Los Burritos. She also explains some lore to us. Long story short, it's a classic Scooby-Doo story involving buried treasure somewhere in town. Or as Fred would call it,
Treasures!
During the explanation, Scooby finds an old hammer. Jenny gives us our third clue, a county map with a secret path engine. With the hammer, we can do the old point-and-click method of backtracking to the general store to pry off the clock, which we can then use to unlock the vault at the bank for some reason, which we can then use the key we found to open the chest in the bank vault, where we finally find our friend Gummy's teeth. Fucking finally! After returning Gummy's teeth, which Scooby found necessary to keep in his mouth, we finally got our next clue, a boot spur. I'm looking at you, Sheriff. All of a sudden, the faceless rider appears, which scares off Shaggy and Scooby, forcing them to steal a train. Now we get to see those glorious 3D graphics from the year 2000. While the cardboard cutouts of Shaggy and Scooby are fleeing from the faceless rider, we meet our fifth and final suspect, me! I am played by
Irving C. Double.
and he gives the best vocal performance out of all the characters by far. I see Double makes us play a puzzle minigame for the kids that this game was made for. After helping him, he gives us our fifth clue. In this case, it's a magazine about ghosts. Before we get back on our 3D train, Shaggy picks up a strange piece of paper that just fucking blows in. Look at that. Yeah, there it is. Yep, good job, Shaggy. Point and click. Somewhere on the tracks, Shaggy can pick up an oil can like a fucking daredevil. My point and click sense brings me back to the sheriff's office so I can use the oil on the old cell door. Once in the cell, Velma loses her glasses, which causes her to miss the faceless rider, locking up Scooby and the Shagster. Yeah! Unfortunately for Shaggy,
Like the window's locked too.
how the fuck? But it doesn't keep him from stealing this blanket. Luckily, Scooby knows that all he has to do is tackle the bed, which uncovers the way out. Scooby jumps in the hole while Shaggy falls, letting out a very horrifying scream of legitimate terror. This hole leads to a tunnel that connects the jail cell to the post office. Once reconnected with the gang, they make their way back to the bank vault and use the combination written on the piece of paper that Shaggy just fucking found to unlock the safe. The safe actually contains a secret passageway to the general store that was boarded up. Inside we find Snap, and I thought they smelled bad. Oh wait, no, that's the wrong movie. But look, a lamp! And we were able to get the lamp. And with that, we are back to the post office. Now that we have the lamp, we can see a hidden cave, which leads us to Boot Hill, the cemetery. Now we have to find the same tombstone that we saw the Faceless Rider was digging at the beginning. If you guessed the wrong one, then you are met with a mini jump scare of the Faceless Rider, as well as a chase animation that goes on way longer than fucking necessary. and you start back at the front of Los Burritos, and yes, you have to walk back. This part took me about 30 tries when I initially did this playthrough because I was apparently not paying attention as well as I thought I was. Or maybe I just suck. Take your pick. Once you actually do pick the right grade, Scooby gets to digging and finds a brick. Film instructs the player to walk back to the fucking water trough outside the post office. After washing the brick, you find out that it was a gold bar all along. The bricks are gold. It was there all along. After this, the Faceless Rider shows up, who Fred just fucking captures without a trap pretty easily. Why'd you just do that from the beginning, Fred? With the gold bar as your final clue, you now have to deduce who the culprit is based on all the info you've collected. This is where the different difficulties come into play. If your difficulty is harder, then you have a lot more misleading clues, which I find kinda neat, but I'm gonna have to go with Chuck the Cuck.
Let's pull back his hood. Time to see a ghost.
Huh?
Since I'm so fucking good at video games, Chuck is the actual culprit. After Mystery Inc. explains why Chuck did it and sucks my dick for being so damn smart, Chuck gets arrested and says those magic words.
And I would have gotten away with it too, if it wasn't for you meddling kid.
After a classic Scooby-Doo ending, the game is done.
Scooby-Doo!
All in all, this is pretty fun to revisit, but boy was it ever slow. It's kind of funny how dominant the point-and-click adventure game genre is for younger kids who are just getting into video games. And I have to thank my parents for letting me install these games and Adobe products onto our computer when I was little, as long as I wasn't destroying the house, right, Mom and Dad? So apparently this game was part of a 3-game collection, the other 2 games being Scooby-Doo, The Phantom of the Night, and I'm not sure what the third one was. It's either Jinx at the Sphinx or the Scary Stone Dragon. I looked it up, but I'm still not too sure. Fuck it might be both, and it's actually a 4-game collection. Who the fuck knows? I may do a video for those games, formatted like this one, depending on the response we get for this video. Until then, this has been Riley from the Cross-Platform Action Squad, and thank you for taking this walk down memory lane with me. Bye!
どうしてお前は弱虫なのさだからみんながバカにするどうしてお前は臆病なのさだからみんなが笑うのさ弱虫毛虫のクルッパ弱虫毛虫のクルッパワンコ仲